I took a solo trip to the Philippines last year to reset my mind, okay? After years of overworking, I needed time off, so I found a quiet island near Storm Bay, booked a small villa, and planned a week of peaceful scuba diving. On my first dive, the sky looked heavy. Thick gray clouds loomed overhead, but forecasts said they'd pass. I wasn't worried. This wasn't my first time diving. The man at the dive shack looked skeptical when I said I was going alone, but I brushed it off. About 15 meters down, the current shifted. Okay, the water turned murky, and I lost sight of my location. I decided to surface early, but the sea above had turned into chaos. Rain hit like needles. No boat. The wind pushed me toward a stretch of beach I didn't recognize. Soaked, I crawled onto wet sand-just jungle, cliffs, tays, in a cave entrance behind a bend. The cave was dry, safe. I sat there, shivering, but slowly, curiosity took over. I turned on my helmet light and ventured deeper. The mossy walls gave way to strange symbols and unnatural silence. Not even the sound of dripping water, only my breathing. Then I saw someone. A man sitting on a boulder, not moving. I called out twice. He didn't respond. Then he slowly raised his head. His face was sunken, lips black, eyes hollow, yet smiling. He gave a slow wave, then collapsed. I rushed closer, but he suddenly snapped upright and started coughing. Not air, blood. He wheezed, spat red across the stone, then began laughing, hyped and crazed. Blood ran down his chin as he howled, like it was all some twisted joke. I ran. When I looked back, he was waving again, smiling. Outside, the storm felt safer than what I left behind. Since that day, I've never dived alone again. People often say scuba diving is like floating through a dream. Weightless, silent, otherworldly, like flying but beneath the waves. What they never mention is how easily the sea can change its mind. It's how a place that welcomes you one moment can swallow you whole the next. Last spring, I joined a chartered dive trip off the coast of Roatan, Honduras. It was supposed to be a break, a reset after a rough year. The water was perfect that morning, flat like glass, and the crew said visibility would be excellent. There were 6 of us on the boat. Most were chatting and getting suited up, while I sat at the edge, checking my gear. I was the last to enter the water, partly because I preferred solitude, even under the waves. Something about being alone down there made me feel safe, till it didn't. At around 18 meters down, just under 60 feet, I drifted beside a narrow reef wall teeming with color. Small fish scattered past me like confetti, and a lionfish hovered nearby, its striped fins flowing like silk. Everything felt right. Until it didn't. My next breath tasted strange, like someone had soaked a penny in cotton candy and shoved it into my lungs. A sharp, metallic sweetness that clung to the back of my throat. I paused, checked my gauges, tank pressure, fine, oxygen mix, normal, but something inside me was shifting. A deep nausea crept up my chest like rising bile. Breathing became harder, not like the tank was running low, but like my lungs didn't want the air anymore. I looked around for my dive buddy, but couldn't see anyone through the warped glimmer of the water. My arms tingled, my legs felt like rubber. The coral seemed to bend the wrong way. Colors were too saturated. My thoughts got slow, sticky, like my brain was trying to swim through honey. I knew something was terribly wrong. I remembered what our instructor said during training. Don't panic. Panic burns oxygen. But it was like my body wasn't listening. I grabbed my BCD inflator and kicked hard, trying to surface. My ears screamed. I knew I was ascending too fast, but I didn't care. The pressure was unbearable, like something was crushing my skull. Just 6 meters from the surface, everything went black. The next thing I remember, someone was shouting my name. I was on the boat, half conscious, choking on seawater, vomited over the edge and grabbed my ears in agony. It felt like someone had jammed knives inside them. I couldn't hear anything except a dull, hollow ringing, like a tone that never stopped. Later, the dive master told me I'd lost consciousness underwater and floated up on my own. He said it was a miracle I hadn't drowned. The tank was clean. There was no sign of contamination. Everyone else's dive had gone smoothly. The doctors confirmed what I already suspected. Both eardrums had burst. I'd never be allowed to dive again. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the lionfish again, hovering just inches from my face, like it had been watching me. I kept hearing faint voices in the silence, like whispers bleeding through a wall. Then came the dreams. In one, I was drifting again at 18 meters, but everything was wrong. The reef was colorless. The fish hung motionless like puppets. And something huge, formless, was moving in the dark. It wasn't a shark. It didn't swim. It slithered. It had no eyes, just mouths. Dozens of them, opening, closing, breathing. As I turned to flee, I saw myself floating in the distance. A mirror version, face twisted, mouth wide open in a scream. But no bubbles came out. I woke up, gasping, drenched in sweat. The nightmares didn't stop. I started hearing things, faint, dripping sounds in my apartment, even when all the taps were off. I smelled seawater at odd hours. At times, it felt like something had followed me home. A month later, I returned to the marina, not to dive. I just wanted closure. Captain Diaz, who'd been running dive charters for 20 years, spotted me from the dock. He smiled faintly, almost sadly. "You were lucky," he said. I asked him what he meant. He looked out toward the water. At reefs seen strange things. "You're not the first to feel. Watch down there." Thought he was joking, but his tone changed. "Some say it's pressure sickness, narcosis, hallucination," he muttered. "Others, not so much. Okay?" He paused, then finally added, "They say when you go deep enough, the ocean takes something from you, and sometimes leaves something behind in return." Sentence stuck in my skull like a nail. I haven't been near the ocean since. I avoid lakes, showers too long, even bathtubs, because even now, sometimes I close my eyes in the dark. I'm 18 meters down again. Here, whatever's down there is still waiting. My name's Owen. I just turned 16, 2 weeks ago. I got back from a trip to St. Ida Island, just off the southern coast of Belize. Sounds incredible, right? It wasn't. The whole trip was mostly just my parents sipping overpriced cocktails, pretending to care about the ocean view. They called it a digital detox, but all they did was scroll on their phones in nicer weather. By the third day, I was done. While my parents were halfway through another bottle of wine on the pool deck, I grabbed a plate of fruit, picked at some mango slices, and stared out at the beach. The sun was setting, and everything below the cliffside glowed in gold and orange. The private beach looked empty, peaceful. I decided to finally use the diving gear I begged them to pack. I told my parents I was heading down to snorkel. They barely looked up, just raised their glasses like that counted as parenting. I grabbed my gear and jogged the path down through the palms. No one was on the beach, no resort staff, no tourists. Just the sound of small waves lapping the shore. I suited up, fins, goggles, small oxygen tank. Then I stepped into the water and dipped beneath the surface. It was stunning. The coral glowed pale pink and green in the dying light. Tiny silver fish darted through arches in the reef like sparks. For the first time since the trip started, I felt calm, like I existed for a reason, beyond being the forgotten kid on someone else's vacation. After about 40 minutes, I surfaced and floated back to shore. I took off my gear and lay on the warm sand. I stared up at the sky, thought about how peaceful it all was, and for a minute, I let myself enjoy it until I saw it. came. A man was approaching from the far end of the beach. Heavy-set, shirt flapping open, bald on top, with greasy hair curling around his ears. Shirt was bright red with floral patterns, loud, like something someone bought at a truck stop gift shop. He shuffled toward me in cracked sandals, smiling. At first, I assumed he was a resort guest, maybe a little drunk. He waved, but not in a casual, friendly way. More like he already knew me. I didn't wave back. He walked right up and sat beside me. Close? Too close. You like diving? He asked. That water's deep for a young guy. His voice was strange, low and wet, like someone gargling while trying to talk. I nodded, politely, hoping he'd take the hint. You here with your folks? He asked again. That place must have cost a fortune. His smile never reached his eyes. His gaze scanned my body, not sexually, but possessively, like he was measuring me. Something clicked. This guy wasn't a guest. This was a private beach, only accessible through the resort or by boat, and there were no boats. I sat up and muttered, I should head back. That's when he grabbed my wrist, warm, like skin left in the sun too long. His hand was damp, leaving already. He said softly, I was hoping we'd talk more. I pulled my hand back. He squeezed harder. What's the rush? He said. No need to be rude. I'm just being friendly. His grip was like a clamp, slow and firm. My heart started pounding. Let go of me, I said. Come on, he whispered, leaning close. Just sit with me, just for a bit. His breath smelled like sour milk and copper. I freaked. With my free hand, I reached down, scooped a fistful of sand, and threw it into his face. He screamed, clawing at his eyes. I pulled loose and bolted. I sprinted across the beach, up the trail, past the palm trees and pool chairs. I didn't stop until I was in the resort lobby, collapsing near the front desk. I was crying, shaking. My parents looked stunned as I told them what happened. Security swept the beach within minutes. No one was there. They checked the guest registry, security footage, staff lists, nearby docks. No one matching his description had checked in or even stepped foot on the property. Could he have come from the water? Someone asked. But there were no footprints, no boat, no gear, just my own. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face. Red shirt, crooked teeth, smiled too wide. We flew home the next morning. I didn't argue, didn't even look back at the beach. Sometimes, I still think about that man, where he came from, how he got there, and what would have happened if I hadn't trusted my gut to whoever or whatever that was. I hope you never find another quiet beach.